Hello everyone, welcome to another series of videos from Electronics Eternity. If you can remember from our previous video, we learned how to remotely control an endpoint devices. As you can see in the screen, we have a simple on and off page that controls our device. So as I was working on this project, I realized that the security element of this project could be further enhanced. For instance, with this web page we're looking at over here, there is a chance that other users who are locally connected to the same network could access the same web page and control your endpoint device. For a simpler example, imagine you and your dear siblings are fighting whether you should keep the room heater on or off. If both you and your sibling could access this page, then it's kind of hard to control the heater, as your siblings want might uh, want to change it whenever they want, right? So it can be undesirable for you. Hence, I have decided to add extra layers of security control to this web page where only the users with right username and password could make changes to your endpoint device. In this tutorial, we will be looking in detail on how we can do that. Let's look at the code. So for the ease of understanding, I've actually placed the new look of our control page on the left hand side. So as I go through the code, we can relate to this. Hopefully it will help with our understanding. So uh, this is the how the control page looks like, right? So it's not much difference than what we had before. We have the two radio buttons, but in addition, we have the form which asks for username and password, right? So going into the code is pretty much the same. We have the bootstrap scripts and we have the HTML tags. We have the style that defines the style for the radio button. It's all exactly similar to what we had before. And as we go down, we have exactly the same thing. However, when you come to this particular point, we have these two new forms which basically ask for username and password, right? As you can see over here. Apart from that, everything else is exactly the same. Yeah, we have our action page, and this time around, I've changed the method to post because we will be asking for password, which is a confidential information. We don't want to use get and actually expose our password. All right, and next is we have the checkbox button, which is what we had before. We have the radio button for value on and off, right? As you can see on the left, and finally we have submit, right? So in total, it's exactly the same, not much difference, except for the two new forms that we introduced in this code, which basically ask for username and password. All right, so it's quite simple. No, not much changes. However, it gets a bit more complicated when we go to the action page, right? So now let's look at the action page. Action page is still .php file, right? This time around, we will be introducing some scripts for Bootstrap scripts because we will be creating a model, right? So the model basically use a Bootstrap format, and therefore we're introducing all the links that is related to Bootstrap, right? So as you can see inside the head, we have defined all the Bootstrap related scripts, which is needed to create a model. And next is we have the style CSS formatting for our button, right? So our model will close at the point of a button click. So I'm just want to put that beforehand. So this is basically the format of the button. So all this is CSS formattings. Feel free to play around these values to see how it affects the size and positioning, or how you can accentuate the looks of your button. Next, we are looking into the body of our page. So within the body, we have our model located here. So uh, this is the division. Within this division, we have our model. So at the very first part, we're declaring a button. So the button is it's button info. So it will create a button in with this color, right? Is in Bootstrap we have info color themes, right? So and then button is medium in size, and the ID of the button is my button. So next is we're looking at the model. So the model is it's a fate model, and the ID of the model is my model, and role equals to dialog. This is exactly all these are just simply the format that we can gather from Bootstrap, right? So I'll just copy paste it the format for model in Bootstrap, and this is the model content, and model header basically contains this particular string which says you have changed your button state, and the model body contains this string which says click the close button at the bottom to go back to the control page again. So it's quite a simple model, and this is just the header and this is just the body, right? And so in total, this is basically our section that creates the model, right? And next we have the PHP processing. It's quite similar to what we have before, except we have changed this from get to post. We basically take the values of our username and password, and then we pass it on to our MySQLi connect to establish connection with our database, right? So it's exactly the same. It's just that username and password this time is basically gathered from the page, which is keyed in over here, right? If the connection fails, it will simply throw out the MySQLi error. That is for the if statement over here. Next is depending on the values that is selected over here, we construct the SQL string which passes on the on and off value to the database, right? So all this is very similar to what we have before. Nothing have been changed, right? Next is we have the result, and it connects to the database, and then it passes on the query. Uh, So next is this is the new addition that we have. If the result there's no problem with it, it basically works, then it's gonna run this script. So as you can see, script document ready function and my model show. So if the value is correct, it's gonna show the model and it's gonna show this string. You have changed your button state, click the close button to go back to the control page again. So it's going to show at all times, given that this particular command is successful, given that the connection to the database is successful, and we also successfully passed on these queries that we have over here, right? So it will show, and we have a button. So at the point of click, it will hide the model, right? So the button is basically a closed button, and it will hide at the point of click. It will hide the model, and it will go back to our control page again, right? So that's pretty much it for the script, right? So do not worry, I'll provide the script. Now let's look at the result to understand better on this code and how it functions and how is the final outcome looks like, right? So let's look at the results. Okay, now let's look at the result. So I have placed the status page on the right hand side so that you can see the result whenever we key in the values on the control page. Now, so let's test and see if it actually works. So my username for the PHP is actually root, and the next is the password, right? So I'm copy pasting the password. I'm not selecting remember me. As you can see, the state now is on. I'm going to try to set it to off, and then I'm going to click submit. So as you can see, the values has changed over here. So now the browser is asking me if I want to save the password. I would say not now. So you can see what happens when I click submit, and it successfully uh, authenticated, and it throws the model. So the model that we discussed earlier is this particular model with the button at the bottom. So you see you have changed your button state, click the close button at the bottom to go back to the control page again. So I want to click close, and it goes back to that, right? So let's see what happens if I submit something wrong, right? And you can see it doesn't go to that particular, it doesn't make the changes effective, right? So the button state remains off, right? And it throws you the MySQLi error. Okay, so only the user that has the credential can make changes to it, right? So it kind of adds an extra layer of security, as we have discussed at the beginning of the video. right? So I could also choose to remember me, right? If you have a personal device that you have locked in, no one else is using the device, you can use to remember me, and it will submit the value. And once you click close, it should, I'm not sure why it's not showing the value. Let me try it again. Remember me, right? Click off and then I click submit. Okay, I have to click save, right? So I have to click save, password saved, and then we click close, right? So every time we go over here, the password is already here. Right now, let's just say I want to turn it on and then I submit, clicks close, and then the values over here changes, right? So with that, we have come to the end of the video. So as you can see, we have successfully added some layer of extra security and authentication to this page, just making sure only the users that have the right username and the credential can change the endpoint state of our device. And the username and password is basically using the username from our PHP database. So PHP database has a fair amount of security and control, and I think this is a great addition to this particular project, right? So I hope you have enjoyed and learned something new. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Until we meet again, thank you. Bye bye.